SpaceX is about to do something crazy with Starship. SpaceX has just announced a significant adjustment aimed at reducing the booster engine's landing burn duration on its upcoming flights. But what's the reasoning behind this change? At the same time, preparations for the next mission are ramping up with prototype production and testing moving full speed ahead. Meanwhile, there's a new space station on its way to NASA. SpaceX's choice to select Booster 14 for Flight 9 marks a pivotal moment in the evolution of the Starship program. A true turning point that signals the beginning of a new era of usability. Until now, the focus has primarily been on validating the basic flight capabilities of Starship and Super Heavy, but with Booster 14, SpaceX is clearly shifting gears toward refining its recovery techniques and testing the limits of its landing systems. Previously, it was announced that Booster 14 would forego a Mechazilla-assisted landing and instead splash down in the ocean. That change alone indicated a more cautious data-focused approach. However, in a surprise update, SpaceX revealed an even more intriguing modification to the flight plan. According to internal sources, Booster 14 will intentionally shut down one of its 3 inner engines during the landing phase, relying on only 2 engines for the final burn. And from what we've seen right now, it looks like SpaceX had to replace 4 of the Super Heavy's 33 Raptor engines. It's not clear what other work was done for the refurbishment. One thing that's still uncertain is just how much stress SpaceX is willing to put on a reused booster at this point. There's speculation abound that it will not go through with a second tower catch attempt. And instead, SpaceX will use Booster 14 to test aerodynamic stress before splashing down in the water. To understand the significance of this, it's worth reviewing how the Super Heavy landing typically works during descent. All 13 of the center and inner ring engines initially ignite to slow the vehicle. Once the velocity is controlled, the outer engines shut off, leaving the 3 inner engines equipped with gimbal capabilities to handle the final descent. These 3 engines are critical for both deceleration and precise navigation to the landing target. But on this flight, SpaceX will deliberately simulate an engine-out scenario by disabling one of those 3 engines. Why? Because this is a critical test of the system's resilience and adaptability. If successful, the data gathered could validate a backup landing configuration, one that would allow SpaceX to proceed with landings, even in the event of an engine failure, rather than aborting and diverting to ace flash now. This kind of contingency planning is essential, especially as SpaceX looks to make a Mechazilla-assisted landings a routine part of Starship recovery. In such scenarios, any mid-flight engine failure could jeopardize not just the mission, but also the infrastructure on the ground. Proving that a 2-engine landing is both possible and safe could give SpaceX the confidence to continue with recovery attempts even under suboptimal conditions. This test appears to be motivated in part by the recent issues seen during Flights 7 and 8. In Flight 8, one of the Super Heavy engines failed to reignite entirely. Thankfully, it was located in the outer ring, but if a similar failure were to occur in one of the 3 central landing engines, the outcome could be much worse. Testing the scenario now in a controlled environment over the ocean is a smart move. It's also worth noting that Booster 14's upcoming flight could be its final act as a test article. After contributing valuable data from landing attempts, Booster 14 is now being used to push the limits of what the system can do. Meanwhile, Ship 35, the ship assigned to pair with Booster 14, is also playing a key role. As Ship has fewer engines than Super Heavy, each one carries more weight in ensuring mission success. Any failure here would have an even larger impact, making thorough testing and reliability improvements a top priority. Ship 35, like Booster 14, has experienced delays due to engine issues, and those concerns are now front and center. SpaceX has already acknowledged that problems with the ignition system were at least partially to blame in previous flights. In response, updates and improvements have been made to the igniter hardware. These refinements are currently being verified in both Booster 14 and Ship 35. And oddly enough, This is the half of the rocket that we're most concerned about right now. We saw SpaceX begin building Ship 35 early this year. And on March 11th, it was successfully cryotested for the first time to prove its structural integrity. That means that as soon as it's received all 6 engines, it can return to the test site for its own static fire. We have no doubt that Ship 35 can perform a hot fire test. Preparations for Flight 9 are now in full swing. Booster 14 recently completed a successful static fire test and is undergoing further inspections in Meg 1 with a particular focus on the engine section. Observers also noted that grid fins on the booster were being adjusted during transport, another critical component, and controlling the booster's descent. These refinements indicate that SpaceX is taking no chances. Ship 35 is also advancing. It's currently receiving its engines and will soon be transported to Massey for additional tests. With both the booster and ship being prepped for flight, all eyes are on how SpaceX will execute this critical test campaign. What makes this so exciting is that it's not just a technical validation, it's a bold demonstration of SpaceX's approach to rapid iteration and redundancy. By testing a potential scenario deliberately, they're showing just how confident and ambitious they are about Starship's future. And this test may only be the beginning. If it goes well, it opens the door to more robust landing protocols and help pave the way for Mechazilla-assisted recoveries with reduced risk. It also increases trust in Starship's ability to carry out high-stakes missions, whether it's satellite deployment, lunar cargo delivery, or eventually crew flights to Mars. The countdown is on and Flight 9 is shaping up to be one of the most important missions yet in Starship's journey. Preparations for SpaceX's upcoming Starship missions are showing no signs of slowing down. While all eyes are on Flight 9 and the critical testing it will carry out with Booster 14 and Ship 35, the groundwork for subsequent flights is already in motion, indicating just how aggressive SpaceX's development cadence is becoming. SpaceX has not specified what they've done differently with this new ship to try and prevent that from happening. As for when we might see the next launch, if you follow Elon's timeline of 4 to 6 weeks after Flight 8, then we should be about 2 weeks away. And that might still be the case. But again, given the before-mentioned circumstances, we're expecting to see a pretty extensive testing campaign of the new ship before anything can move forward. Let's see how that plays out before we even start thinking about launch. But there is another exciting SpaceX launch that seems to be approaching quickly. And this will involve Falcon 9 launching its first ever space station. Actually, it will be the first time any SpaceX rocket has launched a space station to orbit. The company behind the station, known as Vast Space, has already signed this contract with SpaceX to launch their Haven 1 space station in the first half of next year. Now in the world of spaceflight, schedules are great to have, but they hardly ever predict reality. And that goes for everyone involved, not just SpaceX. But Vast has presented a new testing schedule for Haven 1 that appears to reinforce their 2026 launch date, because Vast will be testing their space station alone. They're going to NASA for this one. The company has been working on its current station design since 2023, using the first iteration as a small-scale testing platform, which will later double as a home for astronauts during short scientific stays in Earth orbit. The primary goal of Haven 1 is to test and prepare for their next large project, known as Haven 2, which will be competing for a NASA contract to replace the ISS, one of many commercial stations that NASA hopes to use as a replacement for their current orbital laboratory. The design of Haven 1 is a simple, single-module station that relies on the SpaceX Dragon capsule to reinforce its power, propulsion, and life support systems. It's kind of like a space camper attachment for the Dragon. In contrast, Haven 2 will use multiple smaller modules to construct a larger station that is fully self-sufficient, which would make it a truly flexible solution for NASA and any other industry that wants to operate in space. But before all that, Vast needs Haven 1. As the young company lacks any real experience with building space stations, and can't afford to mess it up on Haven 2, when its goal is to meet the strict requirements set forth by NASA. And while they have been getting closer to their first finished product, VAST did have to push the expected launch date from this year into next, after mock-up testing results indicated a longer build time than they had hoped for. Finally, however, they're back on track in building the first full flight-ready station. After that's finished, they'll need to test the vehicle to make sure it can withstand the high temperature, high vibration, launch, and operation environments. To accomplish this, VAST is headed to the Neil Armstrong Test Center in Ohio. The company recently struck a deal with NASA to bring their module to the same testing ground that has previously hosted the Orion capsule and the Sierra Space Dream Chaser. This highly valuable testing is planned to take place in early 2026, which should remain in line with their previously stated launch date goal for the middle of next year, assuming everything goes as planned. There are many companies competing for a space station contract under NASA, but it's looking like VAST might actually be one of the most promising, as they're the first to reach true mock-up testing and bring a flight-ready prototype to NASA. Though NASA has not yet confirmed specific launch windows, is expected that these 5th and 6th PAMs will take place sometime between 2026 and 2027. What remains constant, however, is the spacecraft of choice. SpaceX's Crew Dragon remains the most reliable and flexible crew vehicle currently in operation, making it the likely transport solution for these missions, regardless of the winning provider. As commercial space access continues to expand, NASA's push to support private astronaut flights is setting the stage for a vibrant and competitive LEO economy. The upcoming PAM selections will not only shape who gets to fly next, but also who will lead in the future of orbital human spaceflight. And that's about it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and that's all for today's update. If you enjoyed watching and found it useful, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. And if you want to support our channel and if you want to be up to date, you can become an exclusive member, so click on our perks through the link in the description below. Thanks to watching and see you next time.